My name is Jason, and this is Just Watches. All right, today we have the first of two Boldr watches that have been lent in by Boldr to the channel for review. So the first one is the Boldr Venture Wayfarer. Now, this is part of their Venture lineup that includes the Automatic, the Field Medic, the Wayfarer, the GMT, and finally the Rally. All these Venture watches share a similar titanium case in a variety of movement types and complications. So as always, we're going to do specifications, pros, cons, and then if I think this watch is worth the money. But before we begin, if you are enjoying the content of this channel, I invite you to subscribe. And if you like the contents of this individual video, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much. So first, price and availability. As of the recording of this video, this watch is available on Boldr's website for the price of $339. However, there's currently a coupon of $30, which would drop the price to $309. All right, starting with the case, it's 38 millimeters in diameter, about 44 millimeters lug to lug, about 12.5 millimeters thick, and then it has a 20 millimeter lug width. Now the case is completely made of titanium, and it has a very nice finish. The finish is the same throughout the entire case of the watch, but it's this nice, I'd almost call it like a satin finished, and then titanium has a nice darker gray color than stainless steel. I think it looks very toolish, and it's a great look for this style of watch. The lugs are pierced, which is going to make strap changes easy, and they do have a nice sharp turn down. And then what this watch lacks in differences in finishing style, it kind of makes up for in, there's a lot of cool angles and chamfered edges going on. So there's this long chamfer on the upper end, and then the bottom of the case is actually scalloped away. And then as I previously pointed out, you have those really angular lugs. So it is still visually interesting despite having the same finish throughout the entire case. And then one of the major benefits of titanium is it's very light. So this watch is 60 grams, and that includes the stock strap. And then titanium is known to scratch. However, this watch, it's quite tough. I don't know if they put a coating on here, but this one has been around for review, and there are some bumps and blemishes in it. But overall, it looks like the titanium is holding up extremely well. So the watch is supplied on this blue NATO strap. It's 20 millimeters, and it stays 20 millimeters all the way to the end. It's plenty long. I think it will accommodate a number of different sizes of wrists. And then you can always clip off the end if it is too long. However, I like to tuck it back under the hardware at the top. Now, they did a great job of matching the blue of the strap to the blue of the dial, and then no attention to detail was lost. The hardware on the NATO is the same titanium with the same finish, so everything looks very consistent. And then you do have the Boldr branding on the pin and collar buckle. Now, this strap feels very robust. The hardware is solid. It's very tightly stitched in. I think this NATO will last. I'm not a huge NATO fan. However, I will show you later in the video, this watch fits perfectly with Barton Elites, which are some of my favorite straps. So I think that in combination with this 20 millimeter lug width, this watch is going to be a total strap monster. So if you're not a fan of NATOs, fear not, you're going to have a lot of options for this one. So this watch features a screw-in case back that's going to help provide 200 meters of water resistance. And then you have a cool X that has printing on the inside. It says some different things like Venture and Boldr to kind of fill out that design. And then this is the only place on the watch where it actually has some damage that shows, and it looks like someone really gouged the case back with maybe it was a strap change mishap, and it looks like they got a tool in there and they just really gouged it. But even with that gouge, it looks pretty good, and it kind of blends into the overall matte gray of the titanium. So the movement powering this watch is the Miyota 8217. So that's a 21,600 vibration per hour, hacking, hand-winding movement with a 40-hour power reserve and a stated accuracy of -20 to +40 seconds per day. This watch also features a 24-hour sub-register and a quick set date. So the only one thing you will want to know about this movement, overall, I think it's a great Japanese movement. It does make a little bit of rotor noise because it only has a unidirectional winding rotor, so the rotor can free spin in the other direction, and sometimes you'll hear that slightly while it's on wrist. So the 6 millimeter screw down crown is signed with the Boldr logo, and it is very easy to use. It has a nice knurling that's actually split down the middle with this cutaway. I find it very visually interesting. And then it does sit a bit recessed into the case of the watch when it's fully screwed down. And I'm happy to report that unscrewing and screwing the crown back in is very smooth. I don't get any of that kind of gritty sandpaper feeling I've been experiencing in some of the new Seikos. It's very smooth, which gives me a lot of confidence in the quality of the crown and then the crown stem. So the crystal here is sapphire, and it is treated with an anti-reflective coating, which is quite good. You can see from most angles, it's not really catching too much light, and you can really see the dial. It helps you see that textured dial. It's completely flat and basically sits totally flush, almost totally flush with the bezel. And it's just great to see sapphire used at this price point. So let's check out this dial. Starting with the chapter ring, which is very well color matched to the rest of the dial, we have dashes for each of the minutes and then a large lume plot for each of the hours. And you'll notice the 12, 3, 6, and 9 uses a square rather than a circle, which kind of creates a cool crosshair effect when you look at the chapter ring. Then moving in from the chapter ring, you have a textured dial. Now, to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of textured dials, but this one really grew on me. It's very visually interesting, and there's a lot going on with the watch, and I like the use of the textured dial here. Then at the 3 o'clock position, you do have the date. It's nicely framed, and it is color matched, and they did a very good job of color matching the blue to the dial, so great attention to detail there. You have the Boldr at 12 o'clock, some information at the 6 o'clock, venture, automatic, and 200 meters. And then, of course, you have that 24-hour sub-register, which might be a divisive point on this watch. I know people may not be a fan of this complication. I do like it, and they kind of talk about why they put it on this specific model. But you will notice that the ring around the edge is also smooth, like the chapter ring, and then the inside part of the 24-hour sub-register is, again, textured. So you have a lot of different things going on with the dial, and overall I find myself very drawn to it with my time with it. Now, if this is too busy for you, I recommend you check out the Boldr Automatic. It's a much simpler dial in a very similar setup with the case, but it has no 24-hour sub-register and no date, so it's going to be very clean. So for the handset, I think they did a good job. You have a syringe hour hand and a syringe minute hand, and the minute hand is plenty long. It's one of my big pet peeves when a minute hand is too short, but you can see here it's actually overlapping the chapter ring, so it's very easy to tell the time accurate down to the minute. And then the finish on all 3 of these hands is the same color and consistency as the rest of the case of the watch, so it's extremely coherent throughout. And then you have that nice long second hand. It's even longer than the minute hand, which is another thing I like to see, and it has that really playful splash of orange on the end with a big lume plot. And you'll be able to see when I show you the lume shot, the lume on this watch is great. So they did a really good job with the handset and a really good job with the application of lume. So as you can see, the lume is good. It's holding its own against the Seiko and a Citizen Nighthawk, which both have excellent lume. So this is actually my first experience with the Miyota 8217, but a pretty killer result. You know, they give very conservative estimates of minus 20 to plus 40 seconds a day, but this one's hovering between 0, plus 1, plus 2 seconds a day with a healthy amplitude and minimal beat error. So very impressed with this first Miyota 8217. So here it is on my 6 3/4 inch wrist. 38 millimeters is a great size for my wrist size. You know, it's obviously a matter of preference, but if you do have a smaller wrist, you do not need to be afraid of this one. At 38 millimeters in diameter and 44 millimeters lug to lug, it's going to fit your wrist. It's going to look great. I think it looks great here. However, I'm not a huge fan of this NATO. Let me show you what it looks like on a Barton Elite. So obviously a matter of preference, but here it is on the Barton Elite. It's going to wear a little bit tighter to the wrist. It's only 12.5 millimeters thick. But you know, when you wear a NATO and it has the 2 layers of fabric, it can make it ride a little high. So I do prefer on this Barton Elite strap, and it's nice to see that it lines up here nicely with the lugs, and I think it looks good overall on the case of the watch as well. Now these are going to come in a wide variety of colors. I'd almost like to see if I can get an orange to match the second hand, the splash of orange on the second hand. But I do think if you're not a fan of NATOs, which I'm not, I think the NATO is high quality. I don't like NATOs. I don't like to wear my watches on NATOs. You do have a lot of other strap options with this 20 millimeter lug width. So pros and cons, starting with the pros. Well, you're getting quite a set of specs here. 200 meters of water resistance with the screw down crown means you shouldn't be afraid to do anything with this watch, include getting it wet, which I think is great for this kind of toolish field style watch. Second, the titanium case makes this watch very light and comfortable, which is really nice, and I also enjoy the satin gray color of the case. Finally, the lume is very strong, which is something I always appreciate. If you're going to put lume on a watch, do it right, and this watch does just that. So for the cons, well, it's a matter of preference, but I'm not a huge fan of NATO straps. I'd love to see this watch offered on a bracelet that matches the color and finish of the case of the watch. I think that'd be really cool. Second, with this Miyota 8217, we saw it's very accurate, but because it only has unidirectional winding, you do get some rotor noise throughout the day as you wear it on the wrist, and the rotor spins in that non-winding direction. And then third, I think the 24-hour sub-register might be a bit divisive because it is clipping the 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock indice and fully replaces the 9 o'clock indice. So a little bit of a stylistic design choice. I like it, but I know it's probably not going to be for everyone. So is this watch worth the money? Well, at just about $300 after the coupon, you're getting an impressive set of features. You have 200 meters of water resistance with a hacking hand-winding movement, sapphire crystal with AR coating, and a great size, 38 millimeters, all in a titanium case. I'm trying to think of something comparable. For about $50 more, you could go for a gray market Hamilton Field Mechanic, which arguably has a better movement, but you're giving up the titanium case and 150 meters of water resistance. So not really a go anywhere, do anything watch with that Hamilton. And then also in my experience, Hamilton's Lume is nowhere near as good. So I think this is a good option. It's fun. It comes in a variety of colors and I have enjoyed my time with it. And I think you are getting value for money at this price point. So there you have it, the Boldr Venture Wayfarer. Let me know what you guys think about this watch in the comments below. As always, if you're enjoying the content of this channel, I invite you to subscribe. And if you like the contents of this individual video, please give it a thumbs up. That's all for this time. My name is Jason, and you have been watching Just Watches.